Shalom. And I want to start off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wachach Chodesh. Double honors to my teachers, their apostles, and elders, the great millstone, and salutations to you, Akim, that's out there listening. Pushing forward this word with truth and sincerity, and you few Akwat as well, that's listening with sincerity. I'm the brother Machaya from the Camp JMS Montreal, coming back with another lesson. And in this one, we're basically going to touch on the fact that our people, they're dispersed throughout the four corners of the earth. Okay? So that means that, our people are going to come looking different shades. They're going to have different looks. Okay? Because they're dispersed amongst all these other nations. Right? That's why when you read in the New Testament where it says neither Jew nor Greek, or it says salvation pertaining to the Gentiles, that's referring to our people scattered amongst these other nations. Okay? Because we know that salvation is only for the Israelites. Okay? No other nation is going to get to partake in that blessing. You see? Because that would be contradictory. All right? I want to get this in John 4 and verse 22 to the point what Yahweh Shai said to the woman at the well, which was a heathen. She was not an Israelite, she was a heathen. That's why the Lord made this statement right here. This is John 4 and verse 22. It says, ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Okay, and the Jews is a short derivative for the kingdom of Judah. Where Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Right, because we know that, at that time, that was mainly, those were the main, how do I say this? Because the rest of our people pertaining to the northern kingdom, they went to the Americas, okay? Right, you could read that, in Kings, even in 2nd Ezra, 13th chapter, okay? Going into how, when the northern kingdom went under the Assyrian captivity, they took a counsel among themselves to go dwell in another land so that they could keep their laws. So after that, only the Jews, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were the main ones that stuck around, okay, within Israel and, neighboring nations, okay? But regardless, the point is, Yahushua told her that salvation is of the Jews, okay? No heathen will get salvation. That's a fact, all right? I want to get this in the curses, because we have to go back to the curses, because that was part of the curses of how that we would be scattered amongst all people if we, disobeyed the laws and then, keep them. Okay? When you read Deuteronomy 28:15 on down, it lists the curses that will befall us. So I want to get this. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64, it says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. All people, okay? That means that it's Chinese, Japanese, Indian, Arab, Africans, those are the terms that, these nations have today, which we know they all have biblical names, right? Like I stated, the Chinese, they're Moabites, Japanese are Ammonites, okay, Indians are Elamites, Arabs are Ishmaelites, and, Africans are Hamites. They all have biblical names. So we'll be scattered amongst those nations, okay, as part of our curse. From the one end of the earth even to the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Okay, Jake is indeed tied to idol worship. They are indeed worshiping other gods, which our forefathers have not known. Jake is into Christianity. They're into astrology. They're into the voodoo, black magic. You know what I'm saying? So Jake is all type of bugged out. Because it's part of the curses. They'll be tapping into these different doctrines, these different worships, which does not pertain to them, because we have one Lord, one power that we ought to worship, no other gods. Okay, but the point being is of how that the Lord will scatter us among all these other nations, man. Okay, looking like them, dwelling among them. Right, even us, before coming into this truth, we were considered as Gentiles. Okay, we were considered as Gentiles, man. Because what? We were immersed in the philosophies, the doctrines of this world, not knowing who our Lord is, and just, calling ourselves whatever you were, Haitian, or calling yourself Jamaican, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I mean? So that's you behaving like a Gentile. Let's get this in Ephesians. Okay? Because we know in the scriptures, there's two definitions of Gentiles. There's the natural Gentiles and unnatural Gentiles. The natural Gentiles are the heathens, and unnatural Gentiles are a people that's basically, immersed once again in the cultures of these other nations. All right, so let's read this, Ephesians 2 in verse 11. It says, "Wherefore remember that ye, being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, that at that time ye were without Hamashiach, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenant of promise, having no hope, and without the Most High in the world." And that's a fact. Before coming into this truth, we were Gentiles, and you know what I'm saying? Being strangers from our commonwealth, man. From the covenants, from our culture. Right, we were. But once we heard this and came into it, we're like, okay, I know who I am now. I know who my power is. I know who I'm supposed to serve. I know who I am. I'm an Israelite. I'm a prince of the power. But before that, we didn't know. Okay? We did not know, man. But now, by the grace of Yahushua, we have access to come back to our nationality, to our heritage. Because, another thing, the Lord did tell Jeremiah that he would discontinue from his heritage that applies to the whole nation of Israel. We have indeed discontinued from our heritage. Now we're coming back. Okay? So when it's referring to Gentiles, or it's saying Greek, neither Greek nor Jew, that's referring to Israelites. That's a simple fact. Okay, even pertaining to that precept where it says neither Jew nor Greek, you have to go back to the history too, during the Hellenization period, which is in the book of Maccabees. First Maccabees, the first chapter, 40 on down, goes into, what happened to our people during that time, how that they were forced to keep the Greek customs. And a lot of our people, they consented unto that and went after the ways of the Greek. That's why Apostle Paul would say that in his different letters. You see? Once you understand it, it makes sense, man. Okay, because the Lord the Lord is very strict. He made it very clear how that he's not dealing with these other nations, of how that he's only dealing with Israelites. That's just a fact, man. Right? Psalms 140, 40, what's that one? Let's get that. Let's get Psalms 147, I want to say. In verse, 147 and verse 19, it says, "He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai." See, the Lord is only dealing with Jacob, only dealing with Israel. Any other nation, he has no dealing with them. If anything, he counts them as a dust of a balance. It says that in the book of Isaiah. Even in the book of 2nd Ezra, it tells you how that these other nations are like a drop of a bucket. They're like spit unto the Lord. He doesn't regard them. So why would he save them? Why would he give them access unto salvation? Here it is, they're worthless in his sight. Come on, man. With all that understanding, get understanding. You know what I mean? So I want to get this in Isaiah 11 and verse 11. Because even in this scripture, it's going to tell you how that the Lord is going to gather his people. Let's get it. Isaiah 11 and verse 11. It says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. So these are different nations. These are heathen nations that our people would be scattered in, and then the Lord is going to deliver them from those nations. Currently, right now, you have brothers that's located in different parts of the world preaching this word, and they may look like a heathen, but their spirit is that of an Israelite. If we were to trace their lineage, it would go back to one of our forefathers. Okay? Because once again, that's part of the curse of how that the Lord will scatter us amongst all nations. It's pretty simple. It's pretty A, B, C, D. It's pretty 1 + 1 = 2, man. There's no deep equation that you have to make to prove how that, this is what it's referring to, man. If you can't see it, it's just that the Lord blinded your eye, man. Because we know Christians always, bring out, the Lord says he's going to come for everybody. Save the world, save the Gentiles, this, that. And a lot of times it's, it be your own people, man. Fucking fighting tooth and nail for these heathens, man. It be your own people that be Christians. They're trying to fight for the Gentiles. What's wrong with you, man? It shows you how that our people have fallen very far, man. Here it is, we're telling them to come into something that's exclusive. They don't want it to be exclusive. They want to be beasts and top up. You know what I'm saying? They want to be heathens up in there, man. If our forefathers were to see this, man, they would look at our people as a disgrace, man. We kept these heathens at a certain distance, man. We treated these heathens like heathens, like they are. There's a reason why Yahushua said to the disciples, don't go to the city of the Samaritans, because what? Those heathens dwelling there, man. Even when Yahushua was talking with the woman at the well, the disciples were like, well, what are you talking to this woman? Don't you know she's a heathen? Because what? We didn't have nothing to do with heathens, man. We would treat them like they are, below us. Not try to fight for them and tell them to come into to this exclusive thing, man. Jake is bugged out, man. That Christianity it's a hell of a drug, man. Well, these heathens, they don't give 2 fucks about you. Crazy. I'm going to read verse 12 as well. It says, and he shall set an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the 4 corners of the earth. And that's a fact. Indeed, the Lord is going to gather his elect from the 4 corners of the earth, and eventually all of our people, they're going to be saved and come out. If they're looking like a heathen, most likely, if they're non-believers, they look like heathens, they would have to be deleted and come back, in that melanated skin, looking like a, your archetype Israelite, with melanin. Okay, because we have our people, that have the curse of leprosy that may look like the white man or look like the China man. If they're non-believers, they're gonna have to be deleted and come back in the proper attire, in the proper look. Okay. Even certain elect members that look like the heathens, once they're delivered, their body's gonna be changed to look like a Jake. They're not gonna get in the chariot and still looking like an Edomite having the curse of leprosy, or looking like a Moabite having those incest eyes. You know what I'm saying? There will be change, man. And that's a fact. I want to get this in Matthew as well, because the Lord did say he's going to gather. He's going to call his angels to gather his elect from the 4 corners of the earth. Why the 4 corners of the earth? Because once again, Jake is scattered amongst these other nations, man. This is Matthew 24 and verse 31. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Because once again, Jake is scattered amongst all people. That's why he's going to send his angels from the 4 winds, from the 4 winds in the end of the heaven into the other. Because what? Jake is everywhere, man. We're scattered everywhere. It's like, I'm saying, I have to get that sneeze out. But yeah, Jake is scattered everywhere. And that's a concept we always go into, man. Apostles or elders, we always go into this topic of how that Jake is scattered amongst all nations, man. And it makes sense. It makes sense, man. Because, another thing too about our people, the men, Well, we like, the woman of the other nation. So what do you think Jake is gonna do if they're scattered there? They're gonna lay with them and have seed, and throughout generation, their seed is gonna look like that heathen nation, man. It's just a simple fact. Okay, that's why in the book of Acts as well too. Let's get the book of Acts, the second chapter. It tells you how that how that they were dwelling devout Jews. Let's get that. Da, 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 da. Yeah, this is Acts 2. I'm gonna go to the point. This is when the disciples, they receive spiritual power, and they started speaking in other languages to preach the word. This is Acts 2 and verse 5. It says, "And there were dwelling at Jerusalem devout men out of every nation under heaven." Okay, now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in their own language. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, "Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans?" Right? Because once again, they received spiritual power. And then they started speaking in the tongues of the different nations that, our people are dwelling on, and to preach the word unto them. So they were amazed. Like, what? How are they speaking our language? Don't they speak Galileans? I never heard them to be reputable for, speaking multiple languages. What's going on? Right? Verse 8, "And how hear we every man in our own tongue where we were born? Parthians and Medes and Elamites and dwellers in Mesopotamia and in Judea and in Cappadocia and in Pontus and in Asia and Phrygia and in Pamphylia and in Egypt and in the parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians, we do hear them speak in our own tongue the wonderful works of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai." You see, so they were dwelling there. They were dwelling in these different nations. You clearly see, he said that where we were born, right? They were born there, they were dwelling there. So they were basically citizens of those nations where they were dwelling. It's just like today. You might say, "I'm American, I'm a Canadian, I'm English, I'm French." Because you were born there, therefore you have a citizenship there. But does that mean that, you are of that nation? No, you just have a citizenship there. Did not Apostle Paul use his Rome citizenship to get out of a hiccup? Right, when he said, "Is it lawful to to smite a Jew? Not a Jew. I'm paraphrasing. He said something. If is it lawful to to hit a Roman? He used his Roman card. Does that mean he was a Roman? No. When you read Romans 11 chapter, he says clearly, "I'm a Jew of." He says, "I'm an Israelite pertaining to the tribe of Benjamin." You see. So, it's pretty simple, man. It's pretty ABC, man. It's pretty 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, it's not 1 + 0 = 100. It's simple, man. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to make things hard. It's pretty simple. Okay, and if you don't get it, ultimately, your eyes were blind, man. That's just the facts of the matter, man. Okay, once again, our people are scattered amongst all nations. Okay, looking like them. And if they're of the elect, they will be delivered in these last days, man. Hey, so I'm going to close it off there, man. Making all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Chodesh. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Until next time, I'm going to say Shalom.